What if I told you that Harry Potter isn't just a story about a boy who discovers he's a wizard? What if the entire 7-book series, every character name, every magical creature, every object, every color, is a carefully constructed map of an ancient spiritual tradition that dates back thousands of years? I'm talking about alchemy. And no, not just the turning lead into gold kind you vaguely remember from chemistry class. The real thing. The philosophical, mystical, transformational tradition that shaped Western esotericism for centuries. J.K. Rowling herself has said, "I've never wanted to be a witch, but an alchemist. Now that's a different matter. To invent this wizard world, I've learned a ridiculous amount about alchemy." Today, we're going to see exactly how deep that rabbit hole, or I suppose that platform 9 3/4, goes. Rowling structured the entire 7-book arc around a process alchemists called the Great Work, also known as magnum opus. It moves through 3 phases, each named after a color. Nigredo, the black phase, death, decay, dissolution. Everything must be broken down before it can be rebuilt. The darkest night of the soul, despair, loss, confrontation with mortality. Albedo, the white phase. After the darkness, purification. Cleansed, refined, made clear. Intellect, detachment, dawning understanding. Rubedo, the red phase. The culmination. The union of opposites, the birth of something new and incorruptible, symbolized by the philosopher's stone. 3 phases, 7 books. Let's look at how they map. Books 1 through 5 correspond to the black phase, Nigredo. Each book escalates Harry's losses, failures, and encounters with death. His parents are already gone. Cedric Diggory dies. And the black phase culminates at the end of Order of the Phoenix, the 5th book, with the death of Sirius Black. Sirius, black. The Godfather, gone. Book 6, The Half-Blood Prince, is the white phase, Albedo. And its central event? The death of Albus Dumbledore. Albus is Latin for white. Book 7, The Deathly Hallows, is the red phase, Rubedo, the final confrontation, the resolution of all opposites. And how does it climax? Voldemort's forces march Rubeus Hagrid carrying what they believe is Harry's dead body, a mockery of a funeral procession. Rubeus is Latin for red. Albus, Rubeus, white, red. The 2 father figures in Harry's life are literally named after the 2nd and 3rd alchemical phases. Rowling confirmed it herself. She wrote that the colours red and white in old alchemical texts represent 2 sides of human nature that must be reconciled, and that this was the direct inspiration for their names. Dumbledore and Hagrid, she said, represent 2 sides of the ideal father figure. One impressive, intellectual and somewhat detached, the other warm, practical and wild. In alchemy, transformation requires specific ingredients. The most important are Mercury and sulfur, and Harry Potter has personifications of both walking alongside him for the entire series. Hermione Granger is Mercury. Mercury in alchemy is associated with the mind, with communication, with the messenger between worlds. The Roman god Mercury is the Greek god Hermes, and Hermione is literally the feminine form of Hermes. She is defined by intellect, by logic, by the transmission of knowledge. Ron Weasley is sulfur. Sulfur in alchemy is associated with biological drive, passion, the body, desire. Ron is ruled by his gut, by hunger, jealousy, loyalty, instinct. And here's a detail that rewards a close reading. Ron's middle name is bilious, a play on bilious, meaning related to bile, produced by the liver. And in alchemical tradition, Mercury and sulfur are known as the quarrelling couple, two forces that must be united but are constantly in friction. Sound familiar? Ron and Hermione spend 6 books bickering before they finally get together. Sirius Black is linked to Negredo, the figure of death, the underworld, the threshold. His name connects to the star Sirius, which in Egyptian tradition announced divine birth. He is the godfather who protects the new soul, and his death ends Harry's darkest period. Remus Lupin and Severus Snape form a pair drawn directly from the chemical wedding of Christian Rosycross, a 17th century alchemical manifesto. The great work requires the sacrifice of 2 kings, a grey king and a black king. Not white and black, grey and black. Because even our best qualities must be surrendered for the work to be completed. Rowling keeps returning to Lupin's premature greying. He is the Grey King, the wise mentor who teaches Harry the Patronus charm and genuinely loves him. Snape is always dressed in black, every single scene. He is the Black King, the hostile shadow whose cruelty turns out to mask a sacrifice that was essential all along. Lupin and Snape both die in the Battle of Hogwarts, right before Harry walks into the forest to face death. They clear the way. The grey and the black dissolve, and what remains is the red. Harry walking forward, alone, transformed. The alchemical encoding goes beyond characters and into the fabric of the wizarding world itself. And the deepest one is hiding inside a children's sporting match, the snitch. Think about the golden snitch, a small winged golden sphere. Harry's entire role is to find and catch it. He is the seeker. The caduceus is one of the oldest symbols in Western tradition, the staff with 2 coiling serpents and wings at the top. It appears on ambulances, medical logos, pharmacies. It goes back to ancient Egypt, where Thoth carried one. The Greeks attributed it to Hermes, the same Hermes whose name Rowling gave to Hermione. At the very top of the caduceus sits a winged golden sphere. That is the snitch. In Hermetic tradition, the caduceus maps the transformed human being. The staff is the spinal column. The 2 serpents are opposing forces of the nervous system that must come into balance. The winged sphere at the top is the new consciousness, liberated, no longer earthbound. Each serpent coils 3.5 times, 7 coils total, the number of transformation. When Harry flies through the chaos of a Quidditch match, the bludgers, the rivalry, the constant collision of opposites, searching for the one golden thing that ends the game, he is enacting the alchemical search for the new consciousness. When he catches the snitch, the conflict ceases. He has found the thing that lifts him above the fray. Some scholars of Rowling's alchemical sources have noted that Neville Longbottom may be a deliberate rearrangement of the medulla oblongata, the brainstem structure controlling heartbeat and breathing, considered in esoteric anatomy the gateway between brain and heart. Whether or not Rowling encoded this, what Neville does makes the connection hard to ignore. Neville spends 6 books overlooked and afraid. Then, in the final battle, he stands up alone in front of Voldemort and refuses to submit. Voldemort places the sorting hat on Neville's head and sets it on fire. Neville, with the hat burning on his head, breaks free of a full body-bind curse through sheer will, draws the sword of Gryffindor from inside the hat, and kills Nagini, the last Horcrux. Severed by the boy everyone forgot. The fire is Voldemort's cruelty. But if you want to read it as the fire of transformation descending on the one who opens the gateway, the text supports it. So what is Rowling actually saying? The great work is about the transformation of the self, the process by which a person moves from base matter, ego-driven and fear-dominated, through darkness, purification and sacrifice, towards something incorruptible. Harry begins as a boy in a cupboard under the stairs, the most diminished starting point imaginable. He arrives 7 books later at the moment where he walks into the forest, unarmed, to die, to destroy the piece of Voldemort living inside him. Yet he survives, because of something Voldemort did in Book 4, something he thought was his masterstroke. In the graveyard, Voldemort used Harry's blood to rebuild his body, believing it would let him bypass the ancient protection Lily's sacrifice had left on Harry. It didn't. By taking Harry's blood into himself, Voldemort became the vessel keeping that protection alive. So when the killing curse hits Harry in the forest, it can only destroy the piece of Voldemort's soul living inside him. It cannot touch Harry, because Voldemort himself is shielding him. The weapon becomes the shield. The death becomes the resurrection. On his parents' gravestone, Harry reads, "The last enemy that shall be destroyed is death." A direct quote from Paul's first letter to the Corinthians. Rowling said this quote almost epitomizes the whole thing. The story was not about defeating Voldemort, but about defeating death itself. Not by fleeing from it, as Voldemort does, but by passing through it, willingly, transformed. That is the Philosopher's Stone. That is the great work. The reason Harry Potter has resonated so deeply with so many people, beyond the plot, beyond the world building, beyond the characters we grew up with, might be precisely this. Every time a reader roots for Harry, they are, in some sense, rooting for their own capacity to move through darkness into something new. Every time Hermione and Ron bicker their way toward love, the reader is watching the alchemical marriage, the integration of mind and body, thought and instinct. When Dumbledore dies and Harry keeps going, the reader lives through albedo, the loss of the guide, the necessity of walking forward alone. The Philosopher's Stone was never buried in a vault at Gringotts. It was always you.